Right. Hello, hello. Thank you all for joining me this evening. My name is Katelind Groenhagen. I'm the Director of Sales at Propel Orthodontics. We have a great group this evening, so I would love to have each of you go around and introduce yourselves and tell us where you practice. Dr. Warshawsky, do you want to start us off?
Sure. I'm Neil Warshawsky. I'm in Chicago. What else you want to know? Practicing for about 30 years. Yeah.
Awesome. Great. Yeah. Dr. Frost, do you want to go next?
Sure. I'm Stuart Frost, practicing in Mesa, Arizona. It's about 15, 20 minutes outside of Phoenix, just to the east, and real close to Scottsdale and Tempe and all that. I've been practicing for about 20 years.
Wonderful. Dr. Boschken, Nicole, do you guys want to go next?
Yeah. One of my favorite places, by the way, is Scottsdale. I could definitely see myself in the winter months when I'm older, living there, right near Camelback Mountain, right there, like in the Arcadia area. Hi, I'm Dave Boschken. I've been practicing for about 20 years. I own two offices, one in San Jose, California, and the other one in Los Altos. Los Altos is located right next to Palo Alto. It's also the home of Apple. Steve Jobs created Apple here in Los Altos, California. And I'm next to Nicole, my COO, who is much smarter than me. And I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Nicole Pruitt, and yes, I'm the COO of our practices, and so I run the day-to-day. I'm his boss. No, and my background is actually sales. I worked for ADP, the payroll company, for about 15 years, and then I've been doing this for about 8 years. So happy to be here. Thanks for having me as a part of the panel. I feel like I don't belong, but thank you for having me.
Of course you belong.
Of course you belong.
I think you were invited, and I actually just came on board for this. So, okay. Yes. I'm actually just serving her the wine. So I'm the sommelier tonight.
He knows his point in life. That's good.
Hey, we all have to have our spots, you know?
Yeah, that's right.
No, but thank you all again for taking time of your evening to join me tonight. I know everyone's lives are starting to get a little bit busier again. Things are starting to pick up. Dr. Frost, you're already back working full time. The rest of us are kind of doing, some emergencies and things like that. So tonight we're here to talk about practicing in a post-COVID world, or at least post-shelter-in-place world. So we're going to discuss some Propel products as well as many others. But I would love for our viewers to be able to leave tonight with a few great takeaways, maybe a couple pearls, if you will. So let's hop right in, shall we? My first question for all of you is, what changes do you plan to make in your overall treatment process moving forward? Whether it's from the initial consult all the way to their retention visits, what are some of the biggest things that you're going to change moving forward?
Well, I can tell you for sure, we're going to probably see 30% less people in the office. I think we would all probably agree that virtual is going to be a mainstay at this point.
Yeah, I would echo that. I mean, for us, when we started our virtual journey 4 years ago, we were at 40% Invisalign at that point, and we were just running up against a lot of issues with running an analog world and a digital world, and the two just grind against each other, and it wears down the team. And it was just, we were seeing 100 patients a day. So really, because of Nicole's vision, we were able to kind of step into what that might look like 4 years ago, and how to kind of increase that digital footprint. It took about 2 years, and we went from 40% to last year we're at 98% Invisalign share of chair, 2% braces. We use Light Force for our brackets, so those are obviously scanned and 3D printed as well. So we can, I guess, in some level call ourselves 100% digital. And we love the outcome. We love the patient response. So I think, to answer your question, what it looks like post-COVID, I think we're in a good place with our offices. We're not in a defensive position. I think we're able to be able to continue operations. We don't see 100 patients. Pre-COVID, we were probably hovering around 45 to 50 patients a day, and we were able to see 6 to 10 consults a day. And so we were still growing and working through, that sort of system. And I think where it all goes for us is that, the new waiting room will be their car. I think the consultation process will look like, as the primary consultation will be the virtual, which we've been doing for a couple of years, but really have, I think, fine-tuned it at this point. So I think the first level of consultations will be through a virtual nature, and Nicole can talk about that. And then I think we've been scaling this, seeing patients every 14 to 16 weeks. So in a 30 of a liner case, we see them twice. And then if you add additional liners in a refinement, call that average 10 additional liners for fine tuning. That's another appointment. So maybe 3 appointments on average, and you add the first consult and then the final delivery, 5 or 6 appointments on average. So I think that scales well in this new COVID thing that we're all in. And I don't know that people are going to movie theaters or restaurants anytime soon, certainly until there's a vaccine or there's a herd immunity concept. But I think all of us kind of need to maybe grab onto what that might look like in their own office in terms of the digital footprint. I don't know if Nicole wants to add to that or not.
Well, that was a long answer, Dr. Boschken.
Oh, okay.
Kind of hogging our
Sorry.
So I'm going to have Dr. Frost go, and then you can come back to
he's
me.
much more intelligent anyway. I got to hear what this guy's.
I'm just going to say, I want to acknowledge you guys, Dave and Nicole. Nicole, by the way, if you do move to Scottsdale, not you, Dave, you stay where you're at, but Nicole, if you this way, come work with me. I want to acknowledge both of you for being ahead of the curve, because, I think a lot of us kind of got caught. We didn't have that vision of, okay, virtual consults and what are we doing with our liners. And for me, I've been a bracket user for 20 years, and it hasn't been until the last probably year and a half where I've finally caught the vision of, okay, what can clear aligners do for a mature 20-year practice? And how do I not see 120 patients a day? And how do I see less patients a day? And how do I, build this aligner practice? So, and on top of that, my friend is, his name is Brian Harris. He's the cosmetic guru with Cavo Kerr, and he has also been doing virtual consults. He has Smile Virtual, that he has about 400 general dentists that are part of his Smile Virtual consults. And he's been doing that for 3-4 years. So 2 months ago, he said to me, hey, I'm ready to go into ortho space. Are you ready to do virtual consults? And it's like, yeah, I feel like I'm like a year or two late. But it's been fascinating to see in my practice over just the last 6 weeks what the Smile Virtuals are doing, the virtual consults, and how that's impacting my practice, even though we've been open, less than however many days. But I gotta say that that the foresight, Nicole, that you have had, and with you, David, and it's where I feel like everything's moving, and you're already 3 steps ahead of us all. So I'm just gonna be quiet tonight and listen to you guys talk, because I'm gonna learn a lot.
Okay, so I mean, really, who are we talking to here? Obviously, Dr. Frost is all of our mentor in so many ways. So that obviously means a lot to hear that. But I think any of us on this call are pretty able to pivot. And your quality finishes are superb. And if you can take what you're doing and just translate that to plastic and your virtual setups, it's not going to be that hard for you. And you can convert, Nicole always says when we're in lecture mode, giving lectures, that she doesn't want the audience to be at 98%. A lot of the time, we just want people to go from 20% to 30%, digital. And there's not a lot that needs to happen other than just a commitment and a mindset and have that vision. And so obviously you're right there. So
doing it. Thank you.
Awesome. I love it. And Dr. Warshawsky, I know, some of the things you and I have spoken about offline, whether it's with revamping your website and your curbside check-in, things like that, just to make it an easier, smoother process for patients.
Yeah, that's new. So I think, David, you said about the new waiting room is your car, or or your bicycle if you ride your bike to the office, whatever. So we've got curbside check-in baked into our code on our website now. So like you come up to the office and you pull out your smartphone and, we tell you if we're ready, and you come in and you're in the new world, you're met by a greeter who takes your pulse oximetry and your temperature. And we throw, so now two-way texting is a big piece of our practice. So when you walk in the door, we're actually sending you a survey, a wellness survey, which you can do from your car. That wellness survey will tell us that you basically are healthy, hopefully. So that's new. And there's a spot for our greeter to put the temperature that we infrared scanned you and stuff like that. So I think part of the new world is CYA, right? Like make sure you're doing the steps. They're not hard, but you got to at least pretend to be doing these steps to protect, yourself, your staff, and your patients. Not necessarily, but ultimately all three have to be done. So, I heard it best, I don't know, one of the hundreds of Zoom calls I've been on, over the last 2 months, but where someone said that the goal is to work slower. You want to see less patients because, you're managing your time better. And, the days of having a huge office with, 11 ups and, like 1 million people hovering around in a bumblebee atmosphere, really, that's not kind of the goal anymore. The goal is like be in control, be systematic, and I'm sure everyone's heard these things, and I'm a novice, and I'll tell you the thing I got a kick out of, I'm the oldest guy probably on the call here. So I started doing Facebook Live for my staff and for my not for my employees, but also for my patients, because I want them to know like what I'm thinking. So, someone said, my wife taught me this. Kudos to my wife, Michelle. She's like, happiness is rooted in being grateful. So if you learn to be grateful, you will have a healthy, happy lifestyle. So I started doing this Facebook Live thing on Mondays, and no big deal. I'm super cheesy at it, right? But and I always try and put something positive in it. But I got a kick out of it this week that someone is sending me a bunch of hearts or whatever, and I can't read my phone, and I'm like doing my thing, and I realized it's somebody who I don't know who is like, "We are so ready to come in." I'm like, "Oh, like
awesome.
Fantastic!" It actually works. And I was like, "Oh my God!" So. I think, as we say, we're learning by trial and fire right now. We're kind of making it up as we go. The thing that I tell, I probably see on a bad day up to 3 emergencies. On a good day, I don't see anybody, but my phone's ringing for the last 9 weeks. And I think it's, the line that I like to use on people is, I'm in the relationship business. I've never been closed. It's like, I'm here if you want to talk. I'm here if you need to come in. And I think people are shocked that I'm that accessible. And I'm like, well, why not? I'm like, if you need me, this is what you pay for. It's the relationship that is the most important thing. It's not the plastic or the bracket or the wire. It's their trust. I call it the blind faith. I'm sure you all agree in this, that they don't know how good we are or we are not. What they know is that they trust us. And, I think, through this whole process, that the thing that's important to really make people believe is that you're empathetic and that you are grateful for simple things in life, like whatever, whether it's a roof over your head or not getting COVID or being healthy or, the people that you surround you. I'm talking to my staff a lot. We've played, Zoom bingo and, we've done drinking games, by internet now. And it's really funny. I mean, it's really funny. And at the end of the day, my staff's like, when can we come back to work? I'm like, I'm like, I promise when you guys come back to work, you'll be super happy. So, you know, so they're coming back next week, and they were all, so we have a group chat on WhatsApp, and my WhatsApp was like pinging all day long because they're just like chattering now that they're all like knowing they're coming back, which is good, because I think some of them are getting a little depressed being home for so long.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I could listen to you all day. I mean, you just,
Shut up.
no, really, everything.
It is good stuff.
I think you gave goosies to Nicole. I think you have goosies, don't you?
Well, I mean, I think it's all I echo it. I mean, it's exactly what I believe. And I think that part of this that we've learned too, that's really hard going back, is that we've built their trust. We've learned how to communicate and a lot of, you know, give high fives, give hugs, smile, have that
Virtual hugs.
And now what?
Virtual hugs, because you can't touch anybody.
And,
Right?
and now it's finding a way to still give them that experience when they come in, to still connect with them, to still build that. And making sure we don't take that out, because this can become a sterile environment if we're not careful. So I think we're really trying to focus on that. You said slow down. I mean, he's a tornado, so I'm trying to get him to, you know, by rushing around, that's efficiency, or what used to be efficiency, and now it can create stress in people. So it's like, okay, we all kind of have to slow down.
She makes me do that Mel Robbins 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Center everything to, you know, my frontal, you know, yeah.
How's that going for you?
I have to remember to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If there's anything I know about the four of you, take out the hugs, take out the high fives. The four of you are still going to be able to make your patients feel special and make them feel appreciated, and that you're, you know, that you're trusted by them and grateful. So it's the very little bit that I know about all of you, I know that you guys will be able to do that. So I wouldn't concern yourself too much with that one. That one will come off naturally for all of you. I'm certain.
Hopefully, yes.
I'm certain of it. So all of you have been avid Propel users, whether it's MOPS or vPro. And, you know, I know you all had utilization prior to COVID. What do you think that's going to look like post-COVID? How will it differ?
Going up.
Skyrocketing.
Am I at the top of your screen too? I don't know. Hey, so it's interesting, because I think what happened for me is that being shut down for 6 weeks, because that's all we really were shut down for, it really gave me an opportunity to drill down on all of our processes, all of our systems, remind ourselves what was working great before all this happened, what things we let slide. And I think sometimes we get a little bit complacent, and I was doing a ton of MOPS until a few months ago, or about 6 months ago. And so then it's like, okay, why do we, what happened? Why did we stop? You know, why aren't we doing vPros with every aligner case we're doing? So I think that we've really taken this opportunity to just say, okay, let's get back focused and do the things well that we were doing and doing well again. And part of those are the MOPS, and part of those are doing vPro with every patient. And I came up to a patient the other day, and I'm like, okay, so I want to make sure you're still doing the mouth vibrations. And she's like, I have these little things I'm biting on, these little chewy things. And I'm thinking, okay, how do we get off track from where we were? And how do we get back on track with every case that we have with our aligners with the vibration? Because I know what's working in our practice. It's interesting. We had a fellow who's being treated. He's from Atherton. No, I'm just kidding, Dave. This patient's from California, and he's in PA school. He's from Arizona, but he's in PA school at Loma Linda. So we started him with aligners, and I think their first set was 35 aligners, and we sent him away 7 months ago, and we gave him a vPro. And then he showed up last week when we opened, and I was just like, okay, I didn't even see him the whole time. He came back, and this is what you guys were, Nicole and Dave, what you guys were alluding to. It was freaking, I was shocked. I was shocked at what I saw and how successful. And so I know that is the key piece of the aligner part of our practice, and it has to be. And so I think just taking that time right now to drill down and say, okay, look, let's get back to basics. Let's get back to what works, and we know what works. So.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I mean, obviously for us, I have some of the old school. I'm bringing. Yes, I remember when I first started using Propel about 8 years ago. I had to sign all of I did some of the initial clinical stuff, but like here's one of the old school ones. You remember this?
Yes.
I mean, it looks like you got it at Home Depot.
They sell them there now. It's fine.
And then frankly, I actually liked this model because I knew if I was going in 5 millimeters, the light would turn on. That was kind of nice.
Dave, I liked the halo it made around the tissue.
Yeah. And then I liked this, but then the problem is that my wrist was starting to hurt.
Your tennis elbow?
Yeah. So then obviously the rotary makes more sense. I mean, obviously, I'm sure you maybe did some Wilcodontics in your time. So, you know, we were doing Wilco, and I love mops really for those challenging cases where we need to, you know, cuspids that are impacted or anterior open bites. And certainly I love hitting all 4 quadrants. And I typically go deeper. I go 5 to 7 millimeters on every one of my perforations. I like it. It's worked out. I'm going to continue to have it part of our practice. Nicole will give you a different perspective on that. So, you know, she's seeing more like behind the curtain, talking to the patient and the consumer. Many of them don't necessarily like to get, you know, drilled or poked. So we obviously have been heavy into vPro 5 vibration as well as light as well. I think one of the advantages for me is that the founder of Propel is my neighbor, Bryce Way.
Helpful.
So Bryce typically comes into my office unannounced, and then he sends in his whole family. And shout out to Bryce, of course. He helped get my son into Bellarmine College Prep High School, where his kids go. But I think vPro has been, I think, a game changer for us, because just like what Stuart was saying, you know, it's one of these things that if they're using vPro on a regular basis, certainly, you know, every night for 5-10 minutes, really seating those aligners, eliminating, and again, this is more anecdotal, but eliminating, you know, all the discomfort and pain, and really kind of seating that aligner, at least for us and what we've seen, we just get a better response out of the DNA that's integrated into the plastic. And so it just makes me more confident as any office that's doing a full spectrum of cases. I mean, we're not just doing class 1, 2 millimeter carotid cases. We clearly are taking the whole gamut of cases that are out there. And what makes that possible is adding some sort of accelerant in there. And so I think we're going to continue to do that, but I'll let Nicole.
And I would say even, you know, pre-COVID, post-COVID, it really helps with, you know, ensuring predictability. So ensuring that movement is actually going to happen. And so I think our patients, when they come in, although we're already doing treatment much faster than when I had braces, you know, they want it faster, they want it more predictable. And if the aligner isn't tracking, they have a sense of concern. So if we can take all those concerns away and just say, here's your, you know, vPro or whatever it might be, they're happier overall, and we're happier too, because it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do, like we referred to. So, you know, really any case that's adult, that's 12 months or more, you know, should be everyone, but all those cases for sure have a vPro that's attached with them. It just makes sense.
Well, one of the things I will add, and I'm just gonna have one thing, is that Nicole,
Just one.
Here's the advantage of all of our new patients that come in. The records that they get always are x-rays, photos, and a scan. Now, not everybody starts treatment same day. I mean, we probably are maybe 50% same day starts. So typically they'll start a day later, a week later, 2 weeks later. Everything's not done through DocuSign, so they don't have to come back in to get those records again, which is nice. But when we hit COVID, we had a couple pain points clearly there, where we had existing patients that already had ClinChecks teed up, and that I had already pushed the button. which meant that I had slenderization, attachments, maybe even elastics incorporated. And I didn't know how long this was going to last. So we delivered probably 30 patients that were brand new patients that I had already accepted the ClinCheck. And we just gave V-Pro to those patients because I knew I wasn't going to be bringing them back in 2 weeks because we place attachments at number 3. I wasn't going to be able to be placing elastics or anything like that. So we just gave the V-Pros knowing, you know what, we're going to go through this whole round of aligners, 35 aligners or whatever, without attachments, without IPR. We're going to go old school, like back, early 1999, 2000, where we didn't even know what we were doing, but we knew we could get through 80% of the case, at least, with the aligners. But I think we can get 90% of the case done because we incorporated, the vibration. And then of course, Nicole found a way to.
Do you want me to kick them off now?
No, you're fine.
Nicole found a way, because we had all those records, she started another 12, 13, 14 cases during COVID for records that we already had. And Costa Rica, I called it my Corona ClinCheck, which was essentially no attachments, no IPR. So we were doing the whole expansion, proclination, derotation, no attachments, no IPR. And again, we incorporated V-Pro into those. And those people are in treatment right now. And I don't know that I'm going to bring them back to like stop midway, rescan, throw everything away. I'm probably just going to keep going through all of those. Sorry, I'll talk stuff.
No, that's amazing.
I learned a little bit.
So cool.
That's so neat. And Dr. Warshawsky, you just said this, so you were just saying it's good. It's going to skyrocket.
I think anything that's going to make plastic perform better, I mean, why wouldn't you do it, right? So whether it's, I like using mops on, like any rotation greater than 30 degrees, you're getting mopped, it's just the way it is. But I'm also with Nicole where I think full mouth mops is a hard sell because it's uncomfortable, and like not too many people sign up for that. Will you track better? Yeah, you're going to track better. Will you do it? Not everybody is motivated, I guess. So I think there's this spectrum, right? And within the spectrum, you can make it easier or harder to perform by, cutting your moves in half or, planning for a reboot but the simplest way, flat out, simplest way, just add vibration in every case, which is pretty much the lesson that I'm learning out of COVID. Like, why not just so here's my only problem, someone taught me a long time ago, the value of something for nothing is nothing, right? If someone gives you something for free, you don't have a lot of value for it. So when you incorporate the vibration device just as part of every treatment, you're going to get a higher percentage of failures. That's what I saw in my practice when I just incorporated it to everybody once upon a time. And I'm like, okay, well, forget that. These are expensive. You're going to blow it off. I'm like throwing my money out the window. So then I'm going to make you pay for it. So we sell them at a loss because I say to my patients, look, I believe in you. Okay. I want you to have a great experience. And I want to show you that my skin is in the game. So I'm willing to lose money for you, right? If you're willing to do what I tell you to do. And if you do, everybody wins at the end because I'll make money because you'll finish faster. And I said, I'm not going to apologize for that because you're asking me to go fast. So if I'm successful, I perform my job, I should get paid. So, in a weird way, people accept that. So that's kind of like my logic that I'm like, I'm going to charge something. I don't really care what the number is. Well, I do care, I guess, but I'm going to lose money on the device, but I want them to see what they're paying for. But I do think it should be given to all cases at this point. That's my 2 cents.
Yep. Awesome. What other products do you believe will help create the largest impact and the largest advantage in your practices moving forward, whether it's products or technologies? What are you most excited to implement fully, if you haven't already? Besides V-Pro.
I'll go first. So, so since the last 6 weeks, I've been doing the Smile virtual consults. I think this is going to change my practice. And this has been, I think, the most important thing that I've done in the last probably 10 to 12 years in my practice, because there's some things that are happening already that are really cool. First of all, I want to acknowledge Neil, because your way of being is really cool. You're a pretty authentic guy. And I love your heart of gratitude. And I'm being really sincere. If you guys know who I am, I'm real. And I love your heart of gratitude and how authentic you are, because that's where people really trust you. And they say, I want to be with this person. They love to be with givers and people that have hearts of gratitude. And the Smile virtual consult, the reason I'm sharing this, Neil, is because
I'm curious to hear about it.
The Smile virtual consult is we record a video to our patients, and then we record a second video that's just directed to them. So what they get to see before they ever show up at my practice is they get to see that who I am. They get to see, they feel of my heart. They get to see if they trust me, because trust, you guys said.
Very cool. This is super cool.
So important. So they get I get to establish trust with them from the virtual consult. They get to see what I would recommend for treatment, because on our pictures we can pretty much tell. And then, so we send that to them. So before they ever show up in my practice, I've built trust. I tell them what we're going to do and invite them to come in. And it's amazing the conversion rates that happens with those Smile virtuals. So I think that the virtuals, and I know, Dave, you guys are already doing this, but wow, huge. And that's going to change our practice forever.
Yeah, the one thing I'll add, Stu, because I love that. I mean, I think that's what people want. People want to feel like they have someone who's listening to them, and that's empathetic and whatever. But I have to say that I've learned that if you're going to practice all this, you have to know who you're talking to, right? So if you're talking about a Zoomer versus a millennial versus a Y, you know what I'm saying? So the only thing I would add to that is I think I would probably record the video actually slightly differently depending on who I'm talking to versus an older versus a younger person. And I think that is 100% the formula for success. And I love the fact that you just talked about that, because I'm all in. I love it.
Big.
Me too. I think that's a really good ad.
So Nicole just kicked me, and she's like, we're doing videos tomorrow.
So are we.
So apparently I'm super busy tomorrow doing more videos, but that's an incredible takeaway. So thank you. I think that brings that little extra personal that we all need these days, and that touch, and just building that trust really from that video. I love that. So
yeah. I think the virtual consultation, just like you said, Dr. Frost, I think it's here to stay, and I think that that you can. I think people were afraid maybe of building a connection over the screen, but building that connection where someone's in their place of comfort, where they're comfortable, their own home, whatever it might be. If they're even nervous to come in, which a lot of patients actually are, they're a little uncomfortable about their smile, and we see it day in and day out, but they're still a little bit nervous. And so they're in their own space. They can get to know you and build that trust. And so I think it's giving us an even better experience for these people than before. So it's made us open our eyes to what's new and actually what might work better. So I'm excited about that. That's definitely, it's a new column. We have like virtual consultation column, virtual appointment column. So it's curbside pickup, all these things that it's just changing, but I think it's put us in a better spot. So maybe we've actually learned something and come out, with some positive things.
Yeah, I think this whole COVID thing has been the ultimate equalizer and the ultimate cleanser. Steve Jobs once said the ultimate cleanser is death. And it's just life's way of purifying everything. And while we are not there, this provided, I guess, kind of a reboot, for us to rethink what we're all doing. I don't know if we're adding more products. I mean, we certainly added Smile Snap for the virtual consultation because of the photography aspect. We like that. We've been beta testing the Lines virtual care app for 3 months or so, and love that monitoring aspect. And that's going to be being built out even more into using AI and algorithms of the ClinCheck, and really being able to use the synergy of the photos and the ClinCheck as well. I think more than anything for us, it's just leveraging the iTero scanners. We like the scanners behind us in the virtual consultation, if nothing else, to show them what the scanner looks like, to show them an example three-dimensionally of what the rough draft looks like. We use the outcome simulation on all of our teens and all of our adults. We are 100% in the phase 1 group Invisalign. We still do upper RPEs and we do lower Invisalign. We don't use outcome for that just because of the algorithms aren't really, suited for that. But certainly, I think just leveraging the scanner even more, and we really use it from end to end, from the initial consultation and the outcome simulation all the way to the very end. And for the retainer. And one of the things that we've been using for the scanner for a number of years is, and while we don't do a lot of braces anymore, we do this with Invisalign, but even on the braces, I don't know that a lot of doctors actually use their scanner to actually check their work with their braces patients at the end. We actually scan our braces patients at the end, and the patient, the mom are right there, and they're evaluating it with me. And what's really humbling is we all think we're really good orthodontists, and I think we all are, but it's super humbling to see a three-dimensional model that you can pull up and pinch open, and all of a sudden you're looking at a second molar that's not fully down. Or you look at like a premolar, this has a slight rotation. Or using the outcome or using the occlusogram, which was basically designed from Pankey, and looking at your occlusogram, and you should see really a lot of reds. I mean, you should see a lot of yellows and a lot of greens. You don't want to see a sea of red. But all of a sudden now you're looking at your occlusal setup in your scheme and you realize, okay, I'm good, but we got a problem here. And it instantly keeps you honest. And we scan every single person at the end before we go into Vivera. And if they're braces, we scan, and once it's approved, we shoot that off to a line. They scrape off the braces virtually. And then the Vivera retainers come back 10 days later or a week later. We debond and we have the 4 sets all ready to go. And we took an analog world and we pulled them into the digital world. So now when they need future retainers, we can 3D print those all day long. So that's getting the analog world into the digital world. And frankly, we had a few examples of where during COVID, braces patients lost their retainer. We had the scan, kind of what Neil was talking about, and we could easily process that in line. They didn't need to come in. And so I just think that we all have these scanners these days. They're all Ferraris or Porsches or whatever car is your choice. And most people are still in the first gear. And these cars, you don't really start feeling that hum and that real energy, that beast, until you're in the top gears. And we all need to get in that top gear when it comes to the iTero scanner. So I think that's my 2 cents on your question. Sorry,
No, I think it's great. And honestly, I think there's another example of you guys building trust at the end of treatment, showing them where you ended up. I think that's a great way to build trust. You're lifting the hood on that Ferrari or Porsche.
It makes you better in the end, because it's super easy to say you're done with treatment and you just looked behind them. You didn't necessarily, we don't know who takes study models at the end and mounts them and does a full Facebook mounting. I don't do a la Roth, anymore. Most people don't. And certainly if you're seeing, some of these offices are seeing 100, 150 patients a day, it's not scalable. So this is just this great opportunity, and all you're paying for is the sleeve, and you might as well have a better sense on that case at the end.
Well, and the patient doesn't come back a couple weeks later and say, this one tooth,
bingo,
in my selfie or whatever, it's really bugging me. And then we have to put braces back on or talk to them about that. So it's all about customer service and building trust. And making sure that everyone's bought in on that end result.
I got tired of Nicole coming to me like 3 weeks later and saying, so there's this one tooth, and I'm like, okay, how can we fix this pain point? And she was like, why don't you scan all your people at the end and evaluate it with the parent, and then we can send the scans to the GPs as well. So then, you know, because they all love to talk about our work.
Great job, Nicole.
Yes, very much so.
Awesome idea, Nicole.
I don't know if I take that or not, but.
Neil, do you have anything else that you want to mention in regards to the product or technology side, or? Have we kind of touched them all?
You know, no, like we're paperless, and you know, we've been paperless, I don't know, 8 years. You know, we're impressionless, we're digital. We've been doing CAT scans since 2006. You know, it's I actually want to go the other way, and I have to say, you know, I worked my whole life to be an orthodontist. I wanted to be an orthodontist since I was 5. I actually wrote a book when I was 5, says I'm going to be an orthodontist, and I actually did it. So, you know, but I got to tell you, one of the biggest lessons I learned in the last 9 weeks, 8 weeks, was it's good to have a mental reset. You know, I think I'm a better person right now. You talk to my wife, she will say I am present, I'm being kind. I'm not always kind, I guess. I'm trying. I fail daily. But you know, from a practical standpoint, I think you touched on, David, on DocuSign. So we are going to e-signatures for every document now. And that was one of the things we implemented because of COVID. And I think the whole, I don't know who touched on it about, you know, how you have a column now for virtual in your daily grid. You know, it's you know, we're all computerized, at least I hope we're all computerized at this point. And the humbling lesson that I try to do is I try to take records every visit. You know, you come in, I want to take photos because I want to see how I'm doing. And we do take scans. We've been taking scans at the end for almost 9 years, 9 years now. And I have to tell you, maybe 3 in 100 cases I love. 97 cases I say, God, I could have done this. I could have done that. You know, do they know? Are they unhappy? Probably not, you know. But it's incredibly humbling to realize what you don't know. And, you know, I think as you practice more, the more you practice, the more you realize you don't know. And so I'm forever the student. I'm sure we all are, right? I love hearing a pearl. Okay, so Stu Frost gets the virtual smile thing going. I love that. You know, that's it. I mean, you just taught me something tonight. And David, I gotta tell you, hats off to you, because I mean, 98% digital ready when this thing hit. You were the guy who was like unfazed practically. You know, good for you. You know, we came to a screeching halt, not in a bad way. I mean, like, our technology's here. We've been, you know, like, I keep hearing people talk about, oh, you got to have a VoIP system. I've had VoIP for 10 years. I mean, like, okay, you know, like, it's just what we have. It's what we do. So I think technology is great. Anything that makes my treatment go better for the patient's experience, be more efficient, go quicker, be more accurate. So, you know, MOPS, vPro, you know, yeah, I mean, those are givens for us. And I've also learned that when people say, well, you know, that vibration stuff's all bogus, it doesn't work. I'm like, okay, well, guess what? It's not going to work because you don't believe in it. Therefore, when you don't believe in it, your patients will see you don't believe in it. Therefore, they will not use it because you haven't taught them the proper environment. So I say to patients, look, I have a pretty successful practice. It's not good or bad. It's just, you know, we're okay. And I'm not going to put myself at liability and offer something that's bogus. So if I'm telling you that you should use this, it's not for me, it's for you, you know? And if I can't turn you into a raving fan, right, then I didn't do my job right. And, you know, my goal is to get the drive-by referral from the person on the soccer field, at the person on my Facebook Live who got infected. And, you know, I want the nonchalant referral. I want the referral that happened because they just felt it was genuine. That to me is the organic growth that is more important to me than size. And I don't have to be the biggest practice. I don't want to be the biggest practice because, quite honestly, it takes the fun out of it. And you know, I want to go to work and love my job, and I want people to see that I love my job. And I think that happens most days. I'm as real as you guys. I have bad days too, and you know when I have a bad day because I don't really hide it. I mean, I'll bite my tongue pretty hard, but you're gonna know. But I think, you know, like I always have a laptop with me. Anyone who knows me I always have a laptop with me or a smartphone or something. So I'm always connected, and you know, it's unfair to my family sometimes. And as ironic as that is, I do not sleep in the same room as my telephone. How many of you do that, David?
Hey.
Oh, I called that one a mile away. Yes, I know. So I don't know about you, Stu. I'm guessing maybe your phone isn't in your room.
The worst thing is 6:30 in the morning when the stock market opens, I get all of my stock report of whether or not it's moved up or down 2%. So you can imagine the volatility in the last like 8 weeks. My phone is lighting up. So my wife literally at times grabs my phone and throws it across the room. Like, yes.
You should plug it in a different room.
I should leave it in the other room. Yeah. It's another takeaway.
One of the few things that I will not violate in a good way. And ironically, my wife sleeps with her phone. So, but we do that. So at least if we have a family emergency, we have one phone in the room.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Well, why don't you guys, I feel like we're getting a little sentimental, which I love. And we're touching on some of these heartstrings. So why don't you guys walk me down memory lane a little bit? What was the moment, whether it's a specific moment, case finish, patient comment, that really sold you on the efficacy of MOPS and or V-Pro? Let's do a little story time.
Story time.
Well, I'll start. Sorry. Somebody's popping balloons in the back here. I'm like, man, it sounds like somebody's just got shot. Yeah, I think for me, one of the cases that just struck me so powerfully is I had a female patient that came in, and she came in for a second opinion. And the second opinion was from an orthodontist I knew. We went to church together. So I go to church with this guy, and she also was in that same church. And then she shows up for a second opinion, and she wants to be treated very quickly. Her husband's an attorney for Southwest Airlines. And she said, we're moving to Dallas. I have 6 months. I'd like, to widen my smile. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, she's so narrow and she's so crowded. And by the time the consultation was over, I just said to her, look, we really need to do MOPS. We need to just perforate and see you every 3 to 4 weeks, widen and broaden the smile. And she bought in. And I didn't know what the other guy was going to say. It was like, oh my gosh, I'm not in competition with him, but I treated the case. I treated her in like 12 months treatment time. It was very difficult. She had really huge exostosis on the buccal, but I used the MOPS every 12 weeks so I could widen and broaden and upright. So I finished this case. It was beautiful. In fact, I've shown it in lectures when I've lectured for Propel before because it's a spectacular case. And it was so beautiful. And she came in to get checked and afterwards, and she told me a story of being at church. And the other orthodontist was there just admiring my work. And he's just like, wow, how did you do that? And so I just realized that, man, there's so many different applications to using MOPS. I mean, I used it to widen and broaden the smile and create this beautiful end result. And I couldn't have done it if I didn't do MOPS. And so that to me was like this, oh, okay, there's an application here. And she was so grateful. And then for one of my buddies goes to that church too. And he came and says, I saw when she was showing her friend her smile. And he said, I watched this doctor come by and just was looking and his jaw dropped. And he goes, I just came up and touched his chin, put his chin back up.
What an
I'll
amazing
never forget that. So,
That's funny.
Anyways,
that's
my
a
story.
great story. That is, I mean, yeah, that's a great one.
I have a similar one. You know, I think it goes back to when Propel first started. What is that, 8 or 9 years ago? And that was about the time that something was happening in the expectation in the orthodontic field from the consumer side that they no longer wanted to be in treatment for 2 years. And we were getting people coming in saying, I need to be done in a year, which they would seem like a long time. Now you have people who are like, I need to be done in 6 months or 4 months. Like there's this, it keeps dropping down. I mean, we're reaching that ceiling of our speed at this point. But I remember this guy, and I think Propel ultimately published this case in Orthodontic Products or whatever magazine that was. And this guy was moving out of back to Utah in like a year. And I looked at his case, and he was severe crowding, you know, that one. And he had a blocked out bicuspid, I think it was on the left side. And I looked at him and I'm like, I cannot, and we were going to be using Invisalign. I could probably push it a little bit more with braces, but he wanted Invisalign. And I'm like, I can't do this in a year. And he said, well, this is the only way I can do it. And that's sort of where I had that aha moment where I was like, okay, one of my early mop cases from Propel, and we did the mops, and he was done in 10 months, no refinement. It was 37 liners or whatever, and case treated out really well. And not that I didn't want to do refinement, I didn't really need to. Maybe a little midline was slightly off, but otherwise it was a beautiful case. And he moved to Utah, never saw him again. But I think it illustrated to me at that point, I had this aha, which is, you know, the patients or the consumers coming in are building this unrealistic expectation of orthodontics. And given the direct-to-consumer and SDC and Candico and all of the other derivatives out there, you know, the consumer is building this expectation in their mind on cost and timing and what can possibly be done. And we know that a lot of it is fiction. And we don't deal in the world of fiction. We deal in the world of absolutes and what's real. And I think what helped me kind of solidify this was where I was going to be going with our practice was really that case. And that was a case that illustrated to me that if not, and I wasn't even thinking about predictability of tooth movement at that point. It was nothing more than speed. And I finished it, and he was super thrilled, and I was thrilled, and there he went. And so that was kind of my aha moment.
That's wonderful.
Cool.
Neil,
my moment was a lot quicker, actually. I had a woman come in, and she was getting married, and she, like I said, we're under construction, sorry. So she comes in, and she's like, I'm getting married. I'd like to fix my gap between my teeth. So she had about almost a 3 millimeter gap between her front teeth, and her centrals are about 2.5 millimeters lower than her laterals. So it's like this really big, obnoxious gap, and it was almost 100% overbite. And I'm like, okay, you know, it's not a problem. I'm like, when are you getting married? She's like, 92 days. I'm like 92 days. I'm like, well, why didn't you wait till day 75? I'm like, you know, like talking about being held to the fire. So I looked at her. I'm like, okay, well, I'm like, I don't know what I can do, you know, but I said, you know, I only know 2 things that I have to tell you up front. And she's like, what is that? She's like, well, the first is that you have to start within 24 hours. Otherwise, I'm out of time. And the second is you have to consent to allowing me to do mops, not once, but twice. I figured I would do it twice, you know. So I really didn't know what was going to happen. I think I charged her like next to nothing because I figured this is more goodwill. If I do something nice, you know, she'll tell somebody, you know, I'll get paid back that way, right? So maybe I charged her $1,500. So, you know, and I think my third thing was I said, oh, and by the way, you have to let me take pictures every time I see you, which she was fine with all that. Now, the backstory is she's living with this guy for over 12 years. and they have a kid together who's like almost 11 years old. So I'm like, I have to ask. I'm like, why buy the cow if you have the milk? And she's like, I just always wanted to have this big wedding. I'm like, okay, fine. That was it. That's all you had to hear. So I'm like, I'm in, it feels good. This is going to be a great story. I'm really excited. And she was adorable, by the way, just always full of energy, always so excited to be in. So in 87 days, not only did I close the diastema 100% and leveled her incisors, but I put a bonded retainer on her and took her braces off. She looked phenomenal, right? And all I thought to myself is, oh my God, I completely screwed myself. I just did a full case for $1,500. I just basically made a donation. So I said to her, I'm like, it's not perfect. It wasn't perfect, but it looked really great. And I'm like, when after the wedding, if you come back, I said, we can finish your case with aligners, whatever. Never thought I'd see her again. So she comes back to the practice, but she saw my associate. So I had no idea, right? So she's like a year into her phase 2, we'll call it, right? And she happens to be on my schedule. And I love this girl, but I had like never seen her. So I walk in, to the room, and there she's like, oh my God, like I haven't seen you in like so long. I give her a hug, this one you can hug people, by the way. So I like, how you doing? Like, life's good. Oh, your teeth look amazing, whatever. I'm like, oh my God, like you look so good, And I'm like, man, I'm like, your husband must love his teeth. And she looks at me all serious. I'm like, uh-oh, what'd I just do? She's already divorced.
Oh,
okay. Like, but she was really cute about it. She's like, no, we're cool, but the marriage thing didn't work for us. Living together for 12 years did, but apparently getting married ruined it, I guess. But her teeth looked amazing. Let me tell you. And it was just a funny thing, but it really made me believe that, I like Wilcodontics. I think there's no greater thing you can do if you have someone who's damaged or you need to push the teeth beyond normal limits. There's no question. I mean, you can push teeth like 300% farther. So I think MOPS is like an unbelievable tool because it gives me almost a Wilco-like effect, right? Without any surgery. And like, who wants to go through Wilco surgery? It's expensive and painful, so I think it's unbelievable, actually, and I really think that anything, especially, like in my practice, I see almost 65% adults, and I would bet more than 60% have had braces already, and they don't look like they've had braces, right? And we all know this story. So, and the only rule that I think we all believe in is whatever they did last time, let's not do that again because it didn't work the first time. Why would it work the second time? So like on all my retreat cases, like I'm pulling out MOPS, V-Pro, I don't know, you used a ligated bracket, we can go to self-ligated or lingual or aligners. I don't care, and we do a lot of orthognathic in our practice, so I don't care, but at the end of the day, the only thing that needs to happen is the case needs to be successful. So again, it's like, if anything is slightly unorthodox, bring out them. Personally, I love MOPS. I know the vibration works and we use them all the time, but if they don't use it, it's still going to fail. MOPS, there's no question. You do it, it's going to work, and really, I can't count on how many times, and probably not less than 10 times where I've done it more than 2 times. Usually 2 times is enough for me. 3 times is, that extreme case like Stuart's case where it's doing that extra expansion, and that 3rd time is called for in that scenario because you'll get an amount of expansion that truly would not occur without fenestrating the teeth through the bone, right? And since a lot of us have cone beams and stuff, you can kind of see where the dicey areas are. And that's one comment I will say. Kate, you asked me about technology. I use my cone beam a lot to really determine really when MOPS make a lot of sense. Because sometimes people look very healthy, and yet you look on the cone beam and what you see is like fenestrated roots. And what I don't want to do is I don't want to take a case that looks stable but is not stable and then try to expand the case and then suddenly have a lot of recession that's active. So I try very hard not to do that.
Yeah.
That's it.
Those are all great stories. So thank you guys for sharing them. And one thing we all touched on a little bit earlier was vPro with aligner cases. So we touched on it a little bit, but tell me more about your thoughts on distributing more aligners in between visits to get that overall visit count down, especially now, since, let's be honest, a lot of patients aren't going to want to come in very often. They're going to want to limit their exposure. So do you feel like Propel technology gives you added security, confidence that the treatment will track smoothly, comfortably, quickly, and still allow you to see them less often? What do you guys think?
So I'll take that one. It's funny that you asked that question, because you can kind of figure out that Nicole and I kind of banter with each other a lot.
No.
Yeah, right. I have always been sort of like into efficiency. The systems and processes that we've built out in the office, we delegate everything to our team. So I don't end up with 50 Post-its on my computer at the end of the day. So the team is all like running around doing every sort of aspect of the digital process. So I've been really into the efficiency. Nicole's obviously been much more into the customer service side of things. Not that I'm not, but we meet somewhere in between. And so we used to, a lot of the time we'd go back and forth on seeing these Invisalign patients every 12 weeks. I like to see them every 14 to 16 weeks, and I build out my clin checks to reflect that in terms of when attachments are placed, when slenderization is done, when exactly we're doing certain rotations with like hinge axis rotation on cuspids, or when we might incorporate Propel, or when we do a secondary round of Propel, or if we're adding Propel plus, or MOPS and vibration together, then I can switch out every 2 to 3 days, and then do a secondary round of MOPS. And so I think what's interesting now is that post-COVID, or whatever, wherever we are now in this COVID, is that I think more of these patients today are appreciating much more of the efficiency model. While they still want the customer service model, they're just not going to potentially experience that as much, other than they can experience that through being receptive. They call, they text, obviously what my team is doing on the phone. But these days, I think everybody wants that efficiency. And so we're pushing out, again, 14 to 16 weeks as we normally do. I think Nicole and I probably have to agree on what that looks like moving forward, because if it's an 18 to a 24 aligner case, I'm probably more inclined to push them out 18 to 24 weeks. And of course, I feel very confident knowing how I set up the clin check. I know that I'm reducing the amount of collisions in the movement. I know I'm doing much more arch expansion and proclination, and so I'm able to ultimately create the space before we're derotating. But I feel that confident knowing that when we give them either the MOPS or the vibration, that we can go out farther and know that we're still going to get the same, or if not better, clinical results had we not done that. So I think that's sort of, every office needs to figure out what that looks like, because we still find ourselves in a situation when we're talking with doctors about, they see their Invisalign patients every 6 weeks or 8 weeks. And the idea when we say, well, why don't you go to 12 weeks now? And they're like, quarterly? Like, well, how do you know it's not working? How do you know you're not failing? And so I think their mind gets tripped up in thinking that, how can we push people out that far? And yet, when I think of my brackets, when I always was a big Damon user, used Damon in my residency at Penn, and that's when Damon was like the size of a tooth, and the doors would fall off just by looking at them. Clearly nothing like
so
the—
you're that old.
I am that old. Clearly not the Damon of today. But, a lot of the time is with proper bracket placement, proper wire sequencing, and Stu, chime in on this, a lot of the time is the less I do, the better in many ways. Like, you want to let those wires fully express themselves. If you're bringing them back every 6 weeks and just switching out wires all the time, it's not efficient mechanics. It's not good ROI. It adds more appointments. And I just think that the mindset is that these doctors have to start realizing that if you trust your ClinCheck and you trust the plastic, then let it do its thing. And Nicole has a slightly different twist on that, because she feels, and I totally respect that a lot, more than half of the experience has been these people coming into our office, experiencing the office and the team and the arcade and the coffee bar and the Dippin' Dots and the Otter Pops and the
Well, I think it's about
People magazine. I don't know, whatever people are doing in our offices. Yeah.
But it's just about, you know, when they're paying for their treatment, some of the value that they saw, or you know, that change is how many times they're going to see the doctor. And so it doesn't have to be an in-office visit anymore, but maybe it's just a quick virtual appointment, or maybe it's a check on the app, or, you know, maybe it's whatever monitoring process you're using. Just find a different way to connect with that patient so that they feel that you're still adding value, that you're not just like, yeah, it's going to be $7,000 and we'll see you twice, you know? Even though you're doing the actual work and all of that, part of it is creating what that customer wants, and it's different for all different types of personalities, as you know. Some people would, you know, not like to see us at all, but there are some that really want the approval that the aligners are working like they should, and so we can give that virtually now, I think.
Yeah, and especially, and you can still make them feel safe, because not everyone is going to feel safe going out into the public right away, and so doing that virtually, I think, is a great way to give them what they need and what they want to a point where they're comfortable as well.
Yeah, so that's
I'll just say this. I'll just agree with you. And I love what you said, David. And I'm just going to say this. It's interesting. I personally want to follow that model, and I'm going to follow that more now, especially after seeing this PA that's coming in, and 35 weeks later, he looks amazing. I will just say, after being open now for 7 days or 8 days or whatever it is, I personally believe that things aren't going to be that different than before. I really don't. After what I've seen in my practice, it might be, maybe say, Neil, where you're at in Chicago, you're more the epicenter. You have like
right.
number two.
It's definitely going to be different here. No question. Yeah. Yeah, but you know, maybe because you're in the desert, you're right. It may be business as usual.
And it has been, and people are coming in and they're acting like, what's the big deal? And they're excited to be here, and they've expected it. They were beating us up so bad for not being able to come in. And so I don't think it's going to be that different, but I do want the efficiency that you're talking about, Dave. I love that. I love the efficiency. I love the ability to still get, we need the efficiency, but we still need those results, because that's what ultimately is going to drive people to come back. And so by using the mops and the vibration, we're going to get those results. I think it's a no-brainer. So,
you know, Bob Boyd said something, you know, former chairman at UOP, Bob Boyd, we all love him. Love Bob, had a lot of interaction with him over the years, just as an aligned faculty and all that. But this was back in our AJO magazine. I think it was probably at least 15 years ago, and somebody wrote a scathing article regarding Invisalign or aligner therapy at that point, and clearly it was still in its infancy. And they're just, and they said, basically, I'm paraphrasing it, but you know, they said that we're not seeing the clinical results from plastic that we get from fixed, and the doctor that had reported on it really hadn't done that many Invisalign cases at that point. And Bob really responded, I think, in a very measured way, and I'm paraphrasing this, but he basically said, you know, I'd love to see your first 40 fixed cases that you ever did. And I'd like to see now your current 40 fixed cases. Your first 40 were in your residency and you probably didn't even finish them, right? And let me see your 40 current, which is now could be 5 years later or 20 years later. And I hope to say that your current 40 are hopefully a lot better than your first 40. And to that point that he made is that your first 40 Invisalign cases that you ever treated were certainly not as finished as your current. And I've treated almost 5,000 Invisalign patients at this point. And I gotta tell you, I don't think I knew what I was doing at every 1,000. I hit 1,000 and I was feeling like, oh, I know what I'm doing. And then I kept getting deeper and realizing, wow, those first 1,000, I don't know that I really love those cases. And then I hit the next 1,000 and the next 1,000. And I got to tell you, I'm always learning, always refining, always perfecting, and we're only getting better. All I can say is that I'm better than I was 3 years ago. I'm better than I was certainly 21 years ago when I started Invisalign. And I think it's just, we all have to kind of push out of our normal, I think, lane. And I think COVID is really enabled that. Anyway.
No, I love it. I love it. That kind of leads me to our last and final question. What are you guys most excited for post-COVID? Personally, professionally, whatever. You can do either or both.
Neil, go ahead.
Well, I know one of the things I really miss is baseball. You know, I'm walking distance to Wrigley Field, consequently my Ernie Banks jersey. You know, it's a really cool thing to be out on a summer night. It's like 80 degrees. It's light till almost 10 o'clock here in Chicago in June. And you have like 45,000 people just happy to be together. And I miss that. You know, I really miss the energy level and the whole thing that goes with the baseball. So I don't think I'll see it this year, but I'm hopeful for next year.
How about the rest of you? Anything that you're super excited for post-COVID?
I want to go to a restaurant. I'm tired of like takeout and then I'm sitting in the car or DoorDash. I mean, my kids, I have 4 kids. I have a 16-year-old, a 15-year-old, a 14-year-old, and a 12-year-old. And I got to tell you, those kids, they all have my Amazon account and they're super crafty. What they do is they put it into the list. And so when I go on an order, I don't pay attention what already is in the queue. So I just push accept. So it's like Christmas every day in the Boschken household. These kids they're getting stuff every day. And then they use DoorDash like it's their own private account. So I think personally, I think this 8 weeks has been absolutely magical when it comes to spending time with my family. The kids are always in sports normally, and we're driving them to, or my wife is, to 3 different schools. And it's actually really fun to be sitting down and having dinner every night with the family.
Absolutely.
And movie night. Everybody gets to pick every other night. I mean, every night gets to pick a different movie. And sometimes they're Nicholas Sparks and my wife is crying. And other times it's a Marvel movie, action. And so that's been priceless, and I'm going to look back on this time as that's a pretty cool moment. Professionally, I think we're wired. I know what my why is professionally. I'm an extrovert. I'm an extrovert that needs some downtime, but I'm pretty much an extrovert that loves talking to people, interacting. I find that I really miss my patients and interacting. I miss that intellectual stimulation of walking into a consult and Nicole looking at me and basically like challenge me. And she's like, we are 98%. So if you can't go and do this case, we're going to drop. So she calls me out. So I love that challenge of figuring out the Rubik's Cube of how to put this case together using the tools that I want to use, which is, Propel and Invisalign for the most part. And I miss that. So, but like I said, this has been a reboot. So I think we're all excited to build out new processes and systems, and some stuff's going to stick. Other stuff is not. There's no playbook that we're running by on this. And I think this is kind of exciting on some level for us to, be moving forward. So what are your thoughts on that?
I would say just personally, the same thing I would echo is it has been nice to slow down a little bit. I think there was a little restlessness at first, but you know, spending time, more time with the kids, sometimes a good thing, sometimes more of a stressful thing because you're doing the homeschooling and the working and all of that, but it's still been a good time to connect. And so I think we're all going to look back and have those memories. I haven't been on so many walks with my kids, and that's been priceless. But I am looking forward to traveling again. I miss traveling. I just, you know, we, like everyone, we skipped a trip, and I just miss that part. I like that, and I travel too for, you know, I speak, and I just really enjoy that. So I miss that. And I'm looking forward to just being together as a team again. You mentioned all your employees are super excited to get back to work, and you forget those just day-to-day connections. And we had someone come in today, and I was just like, I want to hug her. Like, I can't tell you how much I missed her because of the connection, and also because of what she does for us work-wise. So yeah, I think it'll be nice to get back to somewhat normal.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for letting me go last, because I agree with Nicole. I had 4 international trips canceled for speaking, and September was Monte Carlo, which is one of the coolest places in the world. So I'm looking forward to that. But I just want to say one thing, and I know we've been doing this for almost an hour and a half now, but I just want to acknowledge one thing. Katelind, I want to acknowledge you for doing this and for letting us share thoughts and to get to know each other and share for your Propel users. And I want to just say one thing about your leadership in your company. You have 2 guys with Dr. Rich Johnson and Bryce Way who are some of the, you know, I know I'm not going to get emotional. I'm not going to cry, but I'm going to say this. I had both those 2 call and check on me, and I'm sure you guys did too. And I really feel like Propel is a company that's led by true great people who really care about their product. They care about the people they work with. They care about the doctors that are using their products. They care about us, our families individually. And I got to just say that I am honored to work with a company that's run by leaders like that, and people like yourself and the regional managers and people who really do care about the people they work with. And I guess I just want to just say thank you to you and to Bryce and to Rich for, I mean, Rich reached out and personally, and I was like, I don't even, I've talked to him on the phone, but I've never met him. And so thank you to this company that's only going to keep growing and getting bigger and bigger. And as we gobble up some Accelerant stuff and we make, I mean, Bryce, I mean, come on, that guy's a magician. And by the way, I'm an identical twin, and Bryce and I have so many common things in life that I call him my triplet. The guy's amazing. But
I've heard about that.
It's crazy to think about, but thank you to Propel for your great leadership and what you're doing in the industry. Really appreciate that.
Well, thank you. I mean, honestly, we would not be here without doctors like the 3 of you. So I appreciate that. We'll make sure to share it as well, but we're very, very grateful to have all of you here as well. So thank you.
Thanks.
Wonderful. Okay, well, thank you guys again so much for joining me tonight. I sincerely appreciate it. There was a lot of really good info out of this. So I think a lot of people will be stealing a lot of notes from you, which was the goal of this. But thank you all again, all 4 of you, for joining us. We greatly appreciate it at Propel, and we appreciate your support, and we're looking forward to continuing forward. So thank you guys again for your time.
Thanks,
Thank you
Kate.
for inviting us.
Good to see you, Neil. Good to see you, Stu.
You guys
Good to
as
see you
well.
guys.
Thank
Good
you.
to you.
All right.